Yo, what up? It's Darius, and welcome back to the SQL Server Series. In our last video, we talked about how to use cross joins and the union clause. Also, that last video ended our series on how to retrieve data from two or more tables. So, if you have come this far in our SQL Server Series and have understood everything that we have been discussing so far, then you are in good shape. In this video, we are going to be learning how to code queries that summarize data. You can use summary queries to gather sales totals by vendor or state, or to get a count of the number of invoices that were processed each day of the month. But in order to do something like that, you're going to have to learn how to use aggregate functions. Aggregate functions allow you to easily get the average of an invoice amount or the total amount of sales in a month, and they are widely used when writing summary queries. Aggregate functions are designed to operate on single values in columns, and they're also sometimes referred to as column functions. So let's dive in here. I'm going to write out some aggregate functions here that we're going to work with today. And the first one that I'm going to write out is going to be the average aggregate function, and you do that by specifying AVG for average, and then inside of that is going to be whether or not you want to get the average of all your rows, or you can get the average of one row. And so this is going to be the average of non-null values in the expression. And I'm gonna wrap these in a nice comment wing here, because I wanna list all these out that we're gonna go over in this video. So that way we can just come up here and we can read the definition here, and we can easily understand which one we're working with based on each example that I'm going to provide. So the next one we're going to work with is going to be the sum, that aggregate function, and the sum is designed to give you the total of the non-null values in the expression that you use. Okay, and so that's two that we're going to work with. And now the next one's going to be min, which stands for minimum. And this one's going to be designed to give us the lowest non-null value in the expression. The next one's going to be max, which is going to give us the max. And this one's going to be the highest non-null value in the expression. So far you can see there's a little bit of a pattern going on here with the aggregate functions. And our last one's going to be the count, and this one is just going to give us the number of non-null values in the expression. Now you notice in each one of these aggregate functions, it's going to return a value that is non-null in the expression. So it's going to be a value that is not null, and since that applies for each and every single one of these aggregate functions, that's something that you can remember that each one has in common. So the first query we're going to write is a query that uses the count, average, and sum aggregate functions. And what we're going to do is we're going to get the count of the number of invoices from the invoices table, and then we're going to get the average invoice amount from the invoices table, and then we're going to get the total invoice amount. And we're going to use those three aggregate functions. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select all from invoices, and then what I want to do is I want to get the count. This is our first aggregate function that we're using, and then I want to get the count of all rows. So I'm using the asterisk sign. And you guys see me remove that asterisk sign a lot because I don't want all my rows. But in this situation, I want to get the count of all of them. So I'm going to get the count of all my rows, and I'm going to name that number of invoices. And then the next one is going to be the average invoice total. This is the column that I'm passing into my function, which is going to be my expression. It's going to be the invoice total column from the invoices table. And then I'm going to name that the average invoice amount. My typing is so slow today, guys. I'm so sorry. The next aggregate function is going to be the sum, and I'm going to pass in the invoice total, and I'm going to name that as the total invoice amount. And then I'm just going to add a date range in here because I don't want all of my dates. So I'm going to say a invoice date. I'm going to say that's greater than 2015-09-01 to limit my result sets using my where clause. And then I'm going to fire this bad boy off, and you see our count, which is our number of invoices, comes out to 114, which is the number of non-null values from all of our rows. Then the aggregate function here for our invoice total comes out to 1879.7413. So what that's doing is that's giving us the average of all the non-null values from our invoice total. And then the sum here, which is going to give us the total non-null values from our invoice total, is 214290.51. And then of course our where clause here with our date filter. We just said we wanted this data to come anywhere where the invoice date is greater than 2015 September 1st. Now the last query we're going to look at is a query that uses the min and the max aggregate functions. So let's come on down a little bit here, and let's select all from invoices again, and then this time we're going to get the count of all rows, and I'm going to name that the number of invoices, just like I did in the last query. And then we're going to use the max aggregate function. So I'm going to say max invoice total. I'm passing in invoice total as my expression, and then I'm going to name that my highest invoice total. And then I'm going to get the minimum invoice total, and I'm going to name that my lowest invoice total. And then, just like my last query, I'm also going to say where invoice date is greater than 2015 September 1st. I'm going to run that query. And now you see we have a count of all rows, which is 114 like the last query. But the difference here in this query is we're getting the maximum invoice total as our highest invoice total and the minimum invoice total as our lowest. So our highest invoice total in this situation is 37966.19, and our lowest invoice total is 6.00. So that is all for this video. In the next video, we're going to look at how to group and summarize data using the group by and having clause. So thank you for watching. If you're interested in the next video, head over to database-tutorials.com. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it, and see you next time.